Hello, my name is Kathy Peake. I'm the CEO and founder of the Peake Financial Group. And I live in Tucson, but I'm registered in many different states. And this is my 24th year in business. So I have a little bit of expertise in the area, and I love working with divorcees for a couple reasons. Number one, women who are divorced, I have found never got the money memo, or if they did, they may not be using it very well. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I've been divorced a couple of times, or three, and I understand not only how difficult it can be, how much shame women have in a lot of cases, especially Christian women, that they are divorced and they try to hide it, or they don't even want to think about it. And so many women have really never experienced having money, knowing what to do with money. I certainly didn't when I got into this business 24 years ago. In fact, I just answered an ad. I really didn't know what the position was. And I went in looking to see what it was all about, found out it was in the financial realm, and I thought, boy, that sounds fascinating. So I, at the time, didn't know the difference between a stock and a bond. Do you know the difference between a stock and a bond? Well, if you don't, that you want to listen to me now. So money is a tool. It's nothing to be scared of, and you can really learn about it. So when I work with the women that are my clients or prospective clients, I sit down and just really get to know them. I'm a former high school chemistry teacher, and in that realm, I love teaching. And I still love teaching, but now it's in the realm of working with divorced women and in their financial life. So when I became a financial advisor, one of the things that I noticed was that people try to hide that they don't know a lot. And I found that they really appreciated me listening to them. So that's kind of where I start. I sit down. I find out a little bit more about you. What's your thought process? Do you have kids? Are you married, not married, divorced? Because I do work with others than divorced. But if you're divorced, then I find out a lot more about how things are going, what assets you ended up with. And the other thing is I'm a lot like a counselor in that realm. I really do listen, I probe, I find out what you're scared of, what you're concerned about, what your assets are or aren't, and kind of where you are in life at this point. So from there, we just have a good time figuring out what's next for you. So one of the ways that people have gotten to know me recently is through an organization called Empowering Women Alliance. And you can find us on Facebook under Empowering Women Alliance. And our first book that we published almost 2 years ago now, which is called Empowering Women with Words, Life-Changing Conversations. And in that book, I wrote a chapter. And it was a very unique opportunity for some women to get together right as COVID started. And we met every Thursday night for almost 2 years. And we learned about each other. We helped each other kind of formulate different topics, different things that we were fascinated with or had to teach. And one of the things that I love to teach is women about money. So I named my chapter, What I Didn't Know Cost Me Plenty. And that's the truth. A lot of mistakes along the way through a couple of divorces, the good, the bad, and the ugly, 3 kids, a couple of dogs, lots of moves. So other than the loss of a child, I've pretty much experienced it in life. I've lost both my parents. I still have a brother. I've lost a brother before I was actually born. And as I said, I've been through divorces, raised kids, married off kids, and now I have grandchildren. So in my chapter called What I Didn't Know Cost Me Plenty, I really delved into kind of where we get our money mindset. What are those things that you think about that you don't even know that you think about? Those subconscious memories or messages in our, what I call our silent dictator. That's in your brain. Your mind is a silent dictator. And you don't even know a lot of times what you're thinking, but you do feel certain things. So your emotions take over. For instance, if it really annoys you that a friend is going on a vacation and you know that they have nothing saved up for retirement, it really irritates you that they're going on a vacation, but yet you're saving your money and you're planning for your retirement, or you're planning for some other thing, kids, college, or whatever it happens to be, but you're very irritated. Well, I can guarantee you that that's because you have that little silent dictator that you got a message that you don't spend money, that you actually save money. So in this particular way, we all have messages. In my household, my mom was an entrepreneur. However, before she became an entrepreneur, she was a homemaker. And she loved being a mom. She raised us. She was the typical 50s, 60s stay-at-home mom. My dad was an airline pilot and very proud of that. And we lived a nice lifestyle, probably upper middle class by some people's reasoning. And so I really had nothing to want for, but we never talked about retirement, probably for a couple of reasons. Number one, my father had a pension. And so we really didn't talk about saving for the future. And my grandfather was a self-made millionaire. And I guess my dad, and maybe my mom, figured that eventually some of that money would come to them. So we just never talked about retirement or savings, though I do remember as a child having a savings account. And I was very proud of my savings account. And I liked watching my savings account build. And one of the things that I was planning on using for my savings account was my grandparents were going to Europe. And they invited me to come along. Now, I probably at this time was either 10 or 11. And I was very, very excited about being able to have my own money. And unfortunately, there was some world event that happened during that time. I'm not quite sure at this point what it was, but we ended up having to cancel the trip, and I was very, very disappointed. I remember that very distinctly, and I remember how it affected me. The other thing that affected me a lot was my brother and I were getting older, and my mom didn't need to be around the house and doing things quite as much, so she decided that she wanted to go into a business. And so she became an entrepreneur. She poured herself into it. And way back when, one of the granddaddies of them all in the direct marketing business or multi-level marketing or whatever was Amway. And we had a garage full of products. And I was so excited because when we got an order, my mom would give me the order pad, and I had a price list, and I would go to the price list and I would mark down what they ordered, and then I would add it all up, and I would put the price list into the box after I gathered all the products, and I thought it was just a blast. However, my mom, because she was so successful in growing her business, it really affected my dad's ego. In fact, he went to my mom about maybe 2-3 years into this building, and the money that she was making and that was coming into the house was almost starting to rival his captain airline pilot income, and that couldn't be. And in fact, later on, I heard that he had gone to my mom and said, you get to choose. You can either choose me and the family, or you can choose your business, but no wife of mine is going to be selling soap and is making as much money as I do as an airline pilot. So she had to choose. And what I saw and what got stored in my mindset was several things. Number one, a piece of my mom died in that particular time period. I didn't really understand what it was all about. I just remembered that we no longer went to rallies. We no longer packed up products. We no longer serviced customers. And my mom really shifted. Her demeanor shifted, and there was definitely tension around the house. So a couple things I took in, as you can well imagine. The man rules, and the woman does what she's told to do. The man is supposed to be he's the one that makes the money. That you get, my father always said, you get a good education and you'll go far. My mom, on the other hand, always emphasized the fact that business was a place where you never had a ceiling. It was all built on your efforts. And my grandfather was an entrepreneur. He was in real estate and construction, and he was extremely successful. So I had this pull, this tug between education, a career, being an entrepreneur. Are women allowed to make money? Are women not allowed? Do you just get married and let the man make the money? I was a mess. Obviously, I just didn't know anything. And so I really was kind of like an ostrich. I just put my head in the sand and figured that I would go to college, which my parents did encourage me to do, and I got a degree in chemistry and a minor in math. Looking back, I actually thought to myself, I think I got that degree in chemistry because women were not supposed to be that smart. And I think it really ticked off my dad. But I got a degree in chemistry and a minor in math, and I taught high school chemistry for a short period of time. And then I got married, and I figured he could make the money. I didn't really want to continue teaching. Being a teacher in chemistry, you almost need what do they call that? Hazardous duty pay, because you've got all those little hands in high school, and those teenagers are very experienced, but they're also inexperienced all at the same time. So it was a little nerve-wracking, and I decided that I wanted to start my own family, and so I migrated into business. Well, the other thing that I talk about in my book is the story about my grandmother, who inherited a very large sum of money from my grandfather, who had passed away when I was in college. And I had a very, very strange family makeup in that when my mom was 11 and my dad was 17, their parents married. Now, they were step siblings long before they got married, but once my grandfather passed away, all of his money passed to my grandmother. And when my grandmother passed away, all of it passed to my mom, which really upset my dad. Oh, by the way, my parents did divorce in a very, very messy divorce when I was in college. And it was actually not long after my grandfather died. And that really angered my dad that my mom was going to inherit what he felt was his. Anyways, maybe it's karma, who knows? Anyways, I love both my mom and dad, but there were times when I really didn't like my dad. And anyways, so during that period of time, my grandmother moved to Florida from Northern Virginia, where we were all living, and got in touch with one of her oldest and dearest friends who recommended her to a financial advisor. This financial advisor found out that the way that my grandfather had set up the inheritance was, well, a little bit of a backstory. My grandfather was in real estate and construction. He was very well respected on the North Shore of Chicago, really powwowed with a lot of the rich and famous during the 30s, 40s, 50s. Became very well known. He actually built the very first McDonald's in Des Plaines, Illinois, and he was very well respected. And so he was on several boards, and he heard that O'Hare Airport was about to be built. And in that time, my grandfather decided that he was going to buy up a lot of the land around O'Hare for real estate, construction, factories, commercial buildings, and so that's what he did. He actually owned the land, built the buildings, so it was kind of a win-win on both sides, but he never sold the leases on the land. And that was the money that he retired on. And the leases were all set up ad infinitum, so once my grandmother passed away, all of those leases and the money that kept coming in would go down through the generations. However, this financial advisor that my grandmother got paired with when she was getting older, a little bit more feeble thinking, and she was very independent, just like my mom, and maybe like me. Anyways, she let this guy convince her that she should sell all of the land and put all of that money into a real estate investment trust. It was an irrevocable real estate investment trust. Now, I've learned a lot about real estate, REITs as they call them, real estate investment trusts, and it was not necessarily the best investment, especially since this particular REIT was in condos, which were very, very hot in the 80s, maybe early 90s, but really weren't producing a lot of money. And so maybe this particular story is why I was guided into the financial industry. I found out that this person that advised my mom was probably only thinking for himself and his greed in being able to recoup quite a commission on that investment. And I don't know, it probably was enough for him to go buy for cash a house on Miami Beach. That's the amount of money. And what it did was leave my family without that residual income because my mom didn't know anything about money. And unfortunately, that trust dwindled through the years. She made a lot of mistakes with the money. And this was long before I got into the financial services realm. But about 10, maybe 12 years before my mom passed away, the trust was gone. And I ended up taking care of my mom in her last years. So when this opportunity came to me about financial services and I began to learn about it, I really developed a heart not only for teaching it, but for women who really, really need somebody that they can trust, that they can listen to, gives them enough training that they can make an informed decision and knows that I'm not out to buy a house on a hill or on a beach or a second home. I'm there to really, really service my clients. So back to the book. So I tell that story in the book. And I think all of those different things have shaped my views on money. So money is a tool. It can be used like a hammer, either to pound a nail and build a house, or it can crush something So it's just a tool. I've always believed that God always provides. And in fact, I've expanded that mantra into money comes to me easily and effortlessly, continuously, in the most amazing ways every single day. And I thank God for that. And so I say that and I repeat that quite often during my day. Money is also to be used as a currency. A currency is something that it's like electricity or a current in a river that flows. Anytime, or your blood is a current. If that gets stopped up, either in a river or in your body or in the electric current, that current gets cut off and it begins to die. And so money, and that's really what tithing is all about. Now, it's not just a Christian type of thing. It's actually a law of the universe that money flows freely. And as it flows freely, there's an ebb and a flow, and it goes in and it goes out. And if you try to hold on to it too tightly, then it becomes stagnant and it begins to die. So that's another part of my belief system that I talk about in the book. I included a lot in my chapter, and I also have given you a couple of archetypes to take a look at. And these are kind of fun. When I do webinars, I actually have pictures that I show of each one of these. But one of them I already talked about, the ostrich. The ostrich is the woman who sticks her head in the sand and just doesn't even want to talk about it, doesn't want to think about it. And she develops something that I call someday-itis. I'll deal with that later, and pretty soon there is no more later. Also, there's the squirrel. And the squirrel is a woman who loves to save. In fact, she is almost dedicated her life to squirreling away her nuts and keeping them safe. And somebody wants a donation, somebody wants her to give money, and she looks at them and says, "What? Me give away my money? Are you nuts?" So that's the squirrel. She really doesn't have a lot of fun in life, but she may have a lot of money, but she's leaving it in the wrong places, because if you squirrel it away in the bank doesn't stay up with inflation. Inflation will eat away at your money. So you need to use your money as a tool in a much better way. So there's lots of different ways to do that, which I'm not going to go into now. But there's also what I call the hippy dippy. Now, I was this also. I just kind of felt that, and the hippy dippy feels, that God will always provide. And you just have to hope and just have this positive, loving attitude to life and other people, and it will come back around to you. So, those are a couple of them. There's the Noble Nelly, which I won't talk about right now. There's the Peacock, which is one of my favorites. You know, we've all seen these women who spend a lot of money on makeup, on hair, on their clothes, their shoes. They're just beautiful on the outside. But what you don't know is when she goes home, she's just another chicken. So she depletes her money to look good, but she actually doesn't have any, and she hasn't planned for the future. So that's the peacock. But where we all want to get is we want to get to becoming the queen of our financial scene. So the queen has her minions. She has her financial advisor, her CPA. She has her attorneys, different kinds of them, the trust attorney, her maybe business attorney, or just a way to get advice from those people. She has her personal banker. She has all of her minions that she allows to help her run her realm and her kingdom. And so she does what she's best at, and that's not managing her money. She allows others to help her do that, but she always understands what's going on with that money. But she's out there fulfilling her passion and really making a difference in the world. So that's where we really all want to get. The last thing that I want to talk about is a little bit more about Empowering Women Alliance. And our second book that's coming out is coming out very, very soon. Again, our first book, and you can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, so just look it up. It's called Empowering Women with Words, Life-Changing Conversations. That book was written by 15 amazing women who I said came together. On Thursdays, we developed this process of reviewing, and it was just really a remarkable time. We came together. We helped each other hone our chapters in reviewing them and giving each other suggestions. And the last thing, right before we finished everything, we actually developed the whole process, including looking for a publisher. We found a publisher. That was a whole, we developed the cover of the book. We had artists. We had all kinds of very, very creative people that were part of the book. And so that particular book was, I think, really divinely inspired. And there were several of us that once the book was published, we didn't want to just let that be. We wanted to continue that process to empower women to be fully self-expressed and unapologetically powerful. So that's our mission statement. And so we formed an LLC, Empowering Women Alliance, and we're continuing to grow. The next book that's coming out will be Empowering Women with Words, Authentic Stories of Courage and Grace, and there's 12 authors in that book. We will be publishing other books coming up, and we're looking to expand in many, many different ways. We also have a networking opportunity on the last Wednesday of each month. It's called Empower Her Networking with EWA. And if you're interested in finding out more about that, go to our Facebook group. We're going to have a YouTube, hopefully maybe a podcast. And we're looking to expand around the world. We already have members around the world, and we're just really, really looking to expand and to figure out how to monetize this whole thing. So I've covered a lot of subjects. I've told you a little bit about myself. Take some time and think about, what is your money mindset? What are those money memos that you learned as a child that maybe affect your current situation? Good, bad, I don't know. But if you'd like to continue this conversation, you can always find me at my website, which is my business is The Peake Financial Group, but my website is T as in Tom, P as in Paul, financial.net. I did have one that was The Peake, but there's an E at the end of Peake, and people kept forgetting it, and then they couldn't find me. So I shortened it, tpfinancial.net. You can schedule an appointment with me there. You can find out a little bit more about the services that I offer. And I would just love to sit down with you, as I do so many women, to really make a difference in their life, not only for their life, but for their kids and their grandkids and for their communities. So thank you for this opportunity to speak with you. I really appreciate it and hope to see you again soon. Take care. God bless.